Yeah.
So that made me realize that the Buddha only became enlightened when he accepted the bread and water from someone to eat, and
Mhm.
that's the middle path.
Yeah. Middle
That's the
path.
middle. That's the middle path.
Hmm.
That's the balanced way of doing it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like you, but if you're stupid like me, you might want to go from one extreme to the other
Yeah.
and prove that you can do yourself, or you can be clever and you can just replace the bad habits with good habits, and then gradually move in, get rid of your good habits
Because
eventually.
that would be your advice for people that struggle
Yeah,
with
follow the
that.
middle path. Yeah,
Yeah.
follow the middle path. It's the straightforward Buddhist philosophy of
Yeah.
not. It used to freak me out that I used to do a lot of fasting. I used to fast on urine for 28 days. I used to do lots of real weird fasts on coffee enemas and things like that. And
Hmm.
then at the same time, when I became orthorexic and when I started having like parasitical attacks from the fruit I was eating, you got a lot of parasites from raw food, by the way.
Hmm.
If you're
Hmm.
100% raw food for 3 years, your body is full of parasites
Yeah.
because there's so many parasites in raw fruit, and especially in fruit, that your body becomes really populated with parasites, and
Wow.
you're not the highest thing. Sharon Gannon had it as well.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that. Yeah.
When she saw me when I was really ill, she goes, "That's exactly what I had," and it's like a flesh-eating disease. Donna Karan had it. Quite a few of us had it in New York, and we went to this guy called David Jubb, and he treated us for it, and
Mm.
that was for unspecified parasitical viruses. They didn't know what the parasite was, but it
Mm.
was eating our skin away, and it
Yeah.
was, and I think if you do go to those extremes, that's one of the risks that you have to take.
Yeah.
So then I found Buddhism, and the way Buddhism explains with the middle path, you don't have to fast for 28 days, and yogis don't have yoga. Fasting's not part of yoga. A lot of people thought that fasting was an integral part of yoga. Maybe for one day in a week, it's a good thing to do to rest your body. But doing extreme fasts like what we did, like
Mhm.
28 days on urine and 28 days on coffee enemas and nothing else. My friends do dry fasts,
Mhm.
no water.
Wow.
That's a really weird one. I've got,
Yeah.
yeah, that is a really weird one. I've got the guy who
Yeah,
promotes
I
it.
was gonna say, I think it's really dangerous
Yeah,
to do that.
I've got
Yeah.
his book here. I've got his book. It's somewhere in my library. I had it the
Yeah.
other day. Might have moved it downstairs. I was reading it the other day because I thought I'd give it a go, just
Yeah.
to see what he gets out of it. Right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's healthy at all, but he's actually a leading NASA engineer. He's a
Oh.
really bright guy, and
Yeah.
he does dry fasts. That's no water, nothing,
Because how
nothing.
long do they go on dry fasts?
You can go dry fast like 5, 7 days.
Wow.
And according to every doctor in the world, that is so unhealthy.
Yeah.
But like,
Wow.
I don't know. I'll try and show you the book one day when you come over. It's
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's try to find
quite
it.
an interesting book. But
Yeah.
anyway, that that's in relation to extremists.
Yeah.
And I think the best ways for most people is
To
just
find that middle path.
find the middle path.
And I also really like what you said in the workshop about like admitting you have an addiction and then sort of like asking yourself that question, what do you want to change? What kind of, I think you were mentioning the pain and fear you might associate with that change, and
Yeah,
yeah, the cost of benefit of that change. Like, did you ask yourself these questions as well? Because they're
yeah,
good
yeah,
questions to
yeah.
ask.
I thought when I was, you know, when when you have an addiction to something and it's something that you get a great, what Miguel was talking about earlier, when you have when Miguel says, did you get fun out of it, did you enjoy doing it? And you do enjoy a lot of those things, don't you? You enjoy a lot of those addictions, whether it's um, after a meal. You'll see it in a social circle in Amsterdam. After a meal, people like smoking a joint. People do that here. We've all done. I've done that, and we've all done that in my circle for years. You go round someone's house, you have a meal, and after it, you have a joint and a cup of coffee or whatever. But that sort of social habit where you do have something that you really enjoy, and you think, well, life won't be as good if you don't do that anymore. Do you know what I mean? You always have that in the back of your mind, and you know, I I enjoy red wine and cheese at the same time. You know, you've been brought up with eating a baguette and camembert and red wine if you're living in France or you're on holiday in Portugal or something. And you think, well, life will never be the same. And you think at first that's going to be sad. But it's a bit like if you read Iyengar and you read, I have to find the pages for you and tell you what pages they are, where he actually talks about the mound and he talks about this whole system that he has when he's dealing with it in relation to koshas, of how all you're doing is building up a samskara, all you're doing is building up a karmic imprint in your mind. That's a good thing. I really enjoy doing it, and life won't be the same if I don't do it anymore. Of course it will. It'll be the exact same as if you don't. It's not going to be any different whatsoever. You know, life is going to be the same. In fact, it'll probably be better because you've replaced smoking that drum light with your joint and taking the tobacco and giving yourself throat cancer and giving you chest problems. You're going to actually have a better life than you would have had if you didn't give up that joint after. So whatever you're craving and your thirst, the word they use in Buddhism and Sanskrit is craving and thirst. When you have a thirst for something, when you have a craving for something. And it's quite good when they talk about attachment and they always talk about a thirst. I forget the Sanskrit word, but we were talking about it in Buddhism the other day when we were with a lecturer, and we were talking about if the first noble truth is that everybody is born to suffer, you then ask, why is everyone born to suffer? Because they have a thirst and a craving for things. We always have a thirst and a craving for things, and that usually leads to us suffering. So the very first noble truth in Buddhism deals with that as well. The four noble truths deal with everything, but the first noble truth always rang true because it rang true for me because it was my thirst, my attachment, my desire, my craving for my raga, I'll call it what you want. And a lot of those lead to suffering, lead to dukkha. So I wish I had my books handy. I've not got all my books with me. I've got, you can't see my room, but there's a whole wall.
I think you said the same the other day. Like
it's never the one. It's never the one you want, is it?
But I'm sure you know.
I know one of them's just. Have you got Light on Life?
The books you're mentioning, I have them.
I usually keep a copy. Ever since lockdown, I've treated it a bit like a Bible. So this one, I've got 3 copies, and I've got one that I scribble on and one that I write on, and then I've got a pristine copy, and then I keep one in each bag. And the thing I love about it is he addresses everything that we've just been talking about in a very, the great thing about these books, everybody thinks BKS Iyengar wrote them. He didn't.
Oh.
He talked his ideas, and then
someone else was writing them down.
Writers put it into English.
Smart.
So the 2 people who were partly responsible for this book was a guy called John G. Evans, who lectured in philosophy at Cambridge, and Douglas Abrams, who was the religion editor in the University of California Press. So he sat down and talked to them, and then they put it into proper English. If you ever talk to Patabi Joyce or you ever talk to Iyengar, they would write the same way. They would write the same way that they talk.
I just want to say, like, that's a very different kind of English, I would say.
So if you want to see how they talk, read a book like that, Discourses on Yoga by Prashant Iyengar. That is absolutely unintelligible. It's so difficult to read and understand, whereas this is so coherent and so cogent and cognitive to read. And the things he talks about habits, he says, in practical terms, most of us have built up negative habits. You want to turn them into positive habits and then into no habits. As progress reaches into the subtle levels of kosha, you don't avoid smoking because you're a non-smoker or because smoking is bad. You're not invoking a duality of good versus bad. You do not have to bite off your tongue to avoid giving an angry retort to people who come to irritate you. You're not being self-consciously good. It simply becomes second nature to be free. You might give an angry answer to a rude person. You might give a courteous answer to a rude person. But either way, you act in freedom. You act appropriately, unconditioned by the past. So he talks about anger being a habit as well.
Yeah.
And I find that really relevant
I
because I had a
just wanna
big
say,
problem with anger.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
he says sometimes when I'm teaching, it's necessarily, I do this as well, it's necessary for me to act the role of anger. I have to appear mercilessly merciful.
Mhm.
Someone used to call me Ming the Merciless, Ming the Merciful, in order to save students from themselves. The anger response is appropriate, but I am not attached to the anger. The anger roll does not disturb the bottom of the lake when he's talking about the mounds at the bottom of the lake, and it doesn't, and it creates a pattern. As soon as I turn away from the student in anger, it's gone.
Yeah.
You'll find yourself when you're teaching, you might have to be angry with some people to stop them hurting themselves.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. And
so my teacher Mick was always like that. Yeah, he would call people out like, "You're fucking idiot, you're fucking idiot, mate. What are you doing?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Like,
you're going to hurt yourself. Stop doing that.
Yeah.
You've been stupid. People have said that to me. Is that you've been stupid? You know, it's like, yeah, probably. Yeah, well, stop doing that because you can't do it.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, you're really rude. And then I thought, this is just the same as a social, like the anger thing can be like when you have it for other people on the street, when someone nearly runs you over on your bike or knocks you over on the road and you get angry. That's real anger. You know, that's not there for the yoga class. So you've got to deal with that anger the same way you've got to deal with your addictions. Otherwise, you go through life just being angry and being, you know, and it's funny how he puts the three things.
Absolutely, together like that.
Like into addiction and dealing with it as a habit, because then anger becomes a habit.
But it makes sense that from habit comes addiction, right? Because from habit you become craving, and then from this craving you kind of
it's exactly what he taught. Yeah, that's exactly what he says. Perfect. Yeah. If Miguel is really angry with you every day, and he gets angry with you maybe 2 or 3 times a day, then it becomes an addiction, and he becomes angry with you 10 times a day. Then he just becomes angry with you all the time because that's how he feels towards you, because he's angry. And that's the exact same as what you said. You just builds up and builds up and builds up. The same way the smoking builds up, the alcohol builds up, the drugs build up. So it's habitual behavior, whether it's either because it's dealing with koshas, it's not just a material thing. It's not just a physical thing. It's also the same way your thoughts can be interpreted as being tamasic, rajasic, or sattvic, or your thoughts can be within one of the 7 koshas. It's the exact same, like they build up into an addiction. What about people who look for sympathy, people who cry easily? Have you ever met people and they cry, and they cry because they want attention? Yeah, and they've done it all their lives. So the time they get to a certain age, as soon as they feel neglected, negated, ignored, they cry. They cry. I know people that do that. That's because it's a habit. Or they get rude. They get rude with you. You're like, why are you being rude to me? Because they've been rude all their life, and that habit's built up and built up.
Exactly.
It's much easier to be rude than to be nice to you. So I think that's really interesting when you start reading his attitude on habits. It's not just the habits that we relate to in substance or social habits, but also metaphysical, so to speak, habits, and the way we emotional habits, spiritual habits. You know, you can become spiritually attached, you know. And then the habit gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Sparky's dreaming at the moment. He's in the background
making funny noises.
Mika, we need to wrap the addiction part up soon. Do you have another question for Stu, Miguel?
No, I always find he's talks very interesting.
It's funny, Stu, Miguel always